Everyone needs a little hero. Chapter 16. Sticky Memories. Hero was practically buzzing with excitement. He knew it. He wasn't the only one. There were other borrowers who had human friends out there. Not only were they out there, but they were also in the apartment complex with him. This was fantastic news. For so long, Hero wanted to be able to talk about what it was like to have human friends with someone else. But the necessity of keeping his friendships a secret for fear of scaring other borrowers made it impossible. Now, he had Ray who he could talk to about how, after leaving Ray's house, he sprinted home and began planning his next heroing missions, now accounting for Ray coming along to help him. His mind jumped from thought to thought, like how a penny would bounce and spin on the ground. There were so many things to do. There were so many people who needed help, and now he had Ray and Ashlyn as sidekicks. Sure, they both seemed a little apprehensive at Hero going out and talking to his friends, but that was because they didn't know his humans like he did. If they knew them, surely Ray and Ashlyn would change their minds, right? He knew he promised not to talk to any more humans, but did that exclude the humans he was already friends with? He didn't think so. And he didn't think that he could win over Soren and Dorian on his own. And Ashlyn had been one of the ones to say he shouldn't talk to any more humans, but not Ray. If he could win Ray over, he'd truly have an ally in his adventures. Ray had volunteered to be a sidekick and come with him on his missions after all. Hero's only hesitation was that he had bruised his trust with Ray by following him down into Ashlyn's kitchen from his home. Yes, Hero wanted to know what Ray was hiding, but it came at a steep cost. But all Hero had to do was go to Ray, apologize again, and offer him a chance to tag along on one of his missions, helping a human instead of a borrower. And he had just the human who needed help. Sam talked about this thing called a science project and needed to enter it into a fair, whatever that was. He said something about a volcano, whatever that was, and needed to finish building his model. Bad thing was that he accidentally made the hole in the top too small for his hand to put some of the final pieces inside. It was too small for Sam, but just right for Hero. Tomorrow would be the perfect day to go and help him with his project. It was settled. Hero was going to ask if Ray wanted to come with him and help Sam. If Sam wasn't there, then they would still have done their good deed for the day. If Sam was there, however, it would be the perfect chance for Ray to see that Sam was just as much of a friend to borrowers as Ashlyn. All throughout dinner, Hero was distracted, wanting nothing more than the next day to come about so he could go see Ray and Sam. Even getting to sleep was a chore. Still, he managed to drift off into a dreamless sleep, and as soon as his alarm went off, he was up and headed out of the door, his borrowing bag over his shoulder and a pep in his step. He ran along the corridors, up the popsicle steps, and along the beams until he made it to Ray's home. Only now did Hero take a breath, realizing he hadn't stopped the entire way. After taking a moment, Hero knocked on the door and waited as long as his patience would allow. Hero suddenly had a thought occur to him after a few minutes of silence. Was anyone awake? Had he come too early in his excitement? Hero, now horribly embarrassed, turned and started to walk away when he heard the door click open. He turned to see Ray's sleepy face peer out into the hall right at him. His hair was tousled off to the side, and he was wearing an oversized shirt that was obviously a hand-me-down, and long pants that clung to his slender frame. "Hero?" he asked sleepily. "Hey," said Hero sheepishly. Good morning." "Morning," muttered Ray, as he stifled a yawn. He evidently just rolled out of bed to answer the door. Hero felt a horrible guilt starting to gnaw at him. "Is everything okay?" Oh, yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to come over so early. Not everyone's an early riser. I can come back later, apologized Hero as he started to step away. Ray shook his head groggily and opened the door wider. It's okay. Come on in. I have a bunch of things I need to finish up today. Can't sleep the day away. We just have to be really quiet since everyone else is asleep. And Maisie has true borrower ears and will want out of her bed the moment she hears us, said Ray. Hero, leaping at the chance, hurried inside as quickly and as quietly as he could, even slipping his shoes off at the door so the boards below wouldn't squeak. He followed Ray to his room and shut the door, taking a seat on the floor as Ray stumbled forward and sat on his bed, smothering another yawn into his arm. Do your brothers and niece sleep in often? Asked Hero as he pulled off his borrowing bag. No, said Ray. But we had a late night movie night and didn't get to bed until a lot later than usual. With Ashlyn? That's great. What did you watch? Asked Hero, asking eagerly. It felt like such a relief to be able to talk about his discovery of the family's secret openly. He didn't have to try and talk in code or dance around his suspicions, afraid he might offend his fellow borrowers by insulting their stealthing skills or ability to stay secret from the humans. Ray, on the other hand, seemed to slightly shy away from the question. He may not have purposefully led Hero downstairs and revealed his family's secret, but he was definitely a contributing factor to the big reveal. Ray thought it was a bit odd hearing Hero nonchalantly bring up Ashlyn, but there was also a bit of a relief. At least Hero knew about her now, and was chill about it. Ray couldn't imagine what would have happened if one of the other rafters, or if one of Dorian's music friends found out about Ashlyn. With an awkward sigh, Ray nodded and replied, We watched Up, since we had Maisie with us. It was a really sweet movie, and I liked it. But the invention behind it is definitely for little kids. I mean, a whole house being lifted by balloons? Maybe a borrower's house, but not a human house. Anyway, Ashlyn said she would let Dorian and I pick the next one, next time we had a movie night, and only after Maisie goes to sleep. Hero's eyes widened with wonder. Wow, lucky, sighed Hero. I've only been able to glimpse cartoons, and you get to watch full-length films? You have to invite me over next time you have a movie night, if that's okay with you and you get permission from Ashlyn and everything. Sure. Sure thing, said Ray, unable to disguise his voice. Hero looked up at his friend curiously, tilting his head to the side like a confused puppy. Did he misspeak? Was Ray still feeling awkward about talking about Ashlyn in front of him? He decided to backpedal for the moment until Ray relaxed a little. You don't have to if you don't want to. I don't want to impose or anything, said Hero. No, it's not that, dismissed Ray, as he thought about the conflict he was feeling in his head. It's just weird to hear someone else talk about Ashlyn. It's always been a family thing we kept between us. Knew it. Hero felt a pang of guilt that put to shame the other one he felt earlier about waking Ray up so early. Now was as good of a time as any to apologize again. Yeah, it must feel a bit weird hearing someone who isn't your brother's talk about your friend, especially since she's human. I'm sorry about following you yesterday. I shouldn't have done it, apologized Hero. Ray waved it away and shrugged, pulling his legs up onto the bed. It was bound to happen. I'm surprised we lasted as long as we did, to be honest, said Ray. But thanks. I don't like that you followed me, and I wish you hadn't done that. But I guess you couldn't just come right out and ask either. It still sounds weird, but it'll pass. I hope so anyway. Yeah, muttered Hero as he scratched the back of his neck awkwardly. I didn't really think the whole thing through. Ray shook his head and waved it away before scratching his scalp, mimicking Hero. It's done now. Anyway, what brings you by? Did you need something from us or Ashlyn? Or was this just a social call first thing in the morning? Asked Ray. Right. Oh, sorry, said Hero, a little too loudly. I just wanted to see if you wanted to come along on a mission with me. I was going to help Sam with a science project and wanted to see if you wanted to come along. Ray's eyes narrowed slightly as he examined Hero's features. Mission? Like one of your helping missions for the humans? Or helping the community? He asked slowly. Yeah, helping the humans. And his name is Sam. He is almost an inventor like you, but he does more sciencey things, like mixing liquids together and to make them do things. It's hard to explain, but that's the best I can come up with, said Hero. His eagerness almost overrode the earlier awkwardness. Ray, on the other hand, was a little more uneasy. He promised Ashlyn and Soren that he wouldn't talk to any humans, and that they would only do community work. He also promised he'd go back and tell them about the different missions he and Hero were doing, so that, in an emergency, he would know which human it was and where they were. The teen's only peace of mind was that Ashlyn said that she knew Sam, and that he was one of the good ones. I don't know, Hero, muttered Ray. I want to help, and I promised I would, but I almost promised my brother that I would just do community work, remember? We both gave our word. Hero pointed his finger in a hold-on motion. But the humans are a part of our community, right? Ashlyn is a part of the community, isn't she? Besides, she said she knows Sam and thinks he's trustworthy, reminded Hero. Ray still didn't feel convinced. He did want to help people. And if Sam was an inventor, then maybe he could learn something from helping with the project. Hesitantly, he nodded. Okay, but we have to remember the rules, reminded Ray. We're not supposed to talk to any more humans. Get in, help, and get out. Anonymous heroes, like what Ashlyn said. Right. Not talking to any more humans, repeated Hero. With that, Ray finally wiped the sleep from his eyes and got ready to go out. He slipped on his borrowing shoes, belts, hooks, and his toolkit that he had been working on with a couple of tacks, screw ends, and rubber bands. He also threw in his insulated gloves and an extra battery for his hip lamp next to his hook line. Fully suited up, the two borrower boys set out back into the halls. Ray left a quick note on the kitchen counter as he and Hero left, scribbling that he was out with Hero and that he would be back soon. Hero, absolutely giddy, led the way toward Sam's home as he attempted to explain what a science project was. Sadly, he wasn't doing a very good job and ultimately settled on his original definition. So, you make stuff, and it does stuff, and that's a science project? Asked Ray. And he has to invent contraptions to hold this stuff? Something like that. Sam could definitely explain it better, sighed Hero, realizing how little he really understood about the world. It made him wonder how much Ray understood, especially with him having access to more human knowledge than the rest of them. Ray, where did you learn how to invent? Uh-huh, asked Ray as he watched Hero spin around to face it. Hero walked backwards as he continued talking. You know, was it Ashlyn who helped inspire you to invent? I mean, you've got to know a lot more about how things work with her around, explained Hero. Oh, replied Ray, understanding what Hero meant. He glanced around to make sure no one was listening before answering Hero's questions. No, I mean, she did a lot when it came to explaining what different things were. Like, I knew things called screwdrivers existed, but she explained why they looked different in their names. She also explained how some of the things worked and why they worked, like gears and weights in the big grandfather clocks. Other than that, I was just curious and started teaching myself how to put pieces and parts together. That's so cool! I didn't know there were different types of those, so she helps explain stuff, asked Hiro, to which Ray nodded. She explains everything she can and shows me how to look up the answer when neither of us know it, Ray stated, following Hiro onto the ledge and balancing with the most graceful borrower skill he could manage while being completely loaded down with his gear. Wow, I can't even imagine. Well, I can, but it's not the same. Can you imagine if borrowers had consistent access to information like humans? We'd know so much more about the world, and we could create better things. Hiro sighed, daydreaming about all of the things they could do if they had easy access to human information. It would just be better if we could all just live together. At this, Hiro caught Ray making a face. What? Hiro prompted, slowing his pace so he and Ray could talk longer. You don't think so? Well, murmured Ray. He felt a slight unease, but wasn't sure how to put it into words. Was it simply because of his borrower nature? Or did it have something to do with thinking about all the humans and all the borrowers living together and getting along? Yes? Hiro prompted again. It's just odd to think about everyone living together, stated Ray, once again checking to make sure no one was around to hear them talking. Humans are great and all, but I've seen what can happen if the wrong human comes across a borrower. Oh, right, your dad, muttered Hiro, feeling a weight in his chest. He glanced over at Ray's face, which was illuminated by his hip lamp, casting sorrowful shadows over his face. Ray had told him just yesterday that a human found his father, and it hurt him. Hiro couldn't imagine what that was like, never knowing anyone who was lost because of a human, at least not directly. At the same time, that was one instance. Hiro knew at least 5 helpful humans, and now he learned about Ashlyn, making 6. 6 good to 1 bad wasn't the best odds, but he was willing to bet there were more nice humans than mean ones. So, you don't think humans and borrowers living together is a good thing? He asked. Ray thought about the question for a moment, before shaking his head. I don't think so, no. As beneficial as that information is, I don't think all of us living together is as nice as it may seem. He thought about pressing the point, but didn't want to sour his and Ray's conversation by pressing him on the obviously sensitive topic of Ray's father any further. He decided to redirect the conversation instead. But you basically live with Ashlyn. Aren't things better living with her? He pointed out Hiro. Ray held up his finger and gave Hiro a stern look. Keep your voice down, Ray hissed. Yeah, but Ashlyn is different. Not all humans are good like her. Sure, some are good and would let us live as we do. Others wouldn't want that, though. Others would be cruel and want to take care of us like pets. And neither of those things are good. You think so? I mean, yeah, Ray responded as he stopped walking for a moment. I mean, if we had everything provided to us, we wouldn't be borrowers. We'd lose ourselves. It's why we didn't stay with her when Dorian and I were younger, and it's why we stayed when she moved out. With our, I don't know, struggle for knowledge? How do we learn? If we are taken care of, everything given to us and all of that, can we call ourselves borrowers? We'd just be pets at that point, wouldn't we? Plus, we have so few ways to really defend ourselves against humans. It would be difficult to go against the ones who decided to be cruel, added Ray. Hiro hadn't thought about it like that. He did have serious doubts about whether people would really insist on caring for a borrower like a pet once the human knew a borrower could carry on a conversation. But he didn't have time to mount a proper counter-argument as they made it to the open trim spot over Sam's room. The question Ray asked lingered in the air, unanswered, as Hiro pointed to the trim piece and began unfastening it. We're here. This is Sam's room, he said as he finished untying the string, keeping the trim affixed to the ceiling. Right, said Ray. I'll follow you then. Yep, agreed Hiro. Hiro grabbed his own hook and checked down below with a quick glance before descending the line. Ray, seeing Hiro didn't thoroughly check the room, did a check of his own before sliding down the line. Sam's room was, in a word, as tidy as a young boy's room could be. His parents undoubtedly helped keep his room in order, the floor being practically spotless and the books all in order on the shelves. The only thing that was a chaotic mess was his desk at the opposite end of the room, which was covered with large clear bottles without lids. In the middle was a hulking monstrosity that looked like a melting ice cream cone. The bottles looked familiar to Ray, but he couldn't place where he had seen those things before. At any rate, he didn't have time to be curious. Hiro was already belaying down the side of the bookshelf that they were standing on top of, and Ray was not about to be left behind in an unfamiliar room. Surely Hiro knew some good places to hide. He wasn't always out in the open when this Sam boy was around, right? Ray followed closely behind, securing his line before sliding down with his reinforced gloves. Once on the side of the shelf, they jumped down onto the squishy comforter on the bed, climbed up the leg of the nightstand, and carefully shimmied along the trim edge all the way to the desk, where they faced the upside-down cone. The surface was a glistening, clear color that had an odd smell to it. Hiro walked up to the structure and stared at it, hands on his hips. Wow, this thing is crazy looking, he said, with a subtle whistle. Unlike Hiro, who was standing out in the open, Ray kept to the back of the desk and crouched beside some books, which were on their sides. There was something about the sheen that he didn't like about this hulking monstrosity. It looked familiar, but he couldn't quite place it. What the borrower team liked even less was that Hiro was just standing out in the middle of the table. He was supposed to be keeping to the shadows. They weren't supposed to talk to any more humans. Didn't that include Sam? And was this how other borrowers would feel if they saw him standing out in the open with Ashlyn? Regardless, Ray decided to say something. Hiro, you should take cover while we go over the game plan. What did Sam need help with? Did you see him having a hard time with something specific? Asked Ray in a low, hushed tone. No, he told me. He needed something put on the inside of this thing. There's some kind of hole in the top, and he needed something put on the inside. His hands were too big or something like that, said Hiro. Ray gawked at the massive structure before looking back at Hiro. So you talked to him about it? Asked Ray. Yeah, I wonder if I can just climb to the top and get in from there, said Hiro. Hiro began to approach the structure. Ray, still uneasy, squinted at the odd glistening substance. Something still wasn't right about it. He inhaled again, and, like a jolt of electricity, one distant memory nearly paralyzed him. Just then, Ray realized what the substance was. As Hiro walked up to the structure, his boot got caught on a small puddle of the glistening substance, which was near the middle of the table, and it stuck hard. It was glue. The whole thing had been coated in clear glue, and it wasn't hard yet. Ray's mind flashed back to his childhood, being stuck in the mousetrap, and his insides lurched. Did Hero not know what this stuff was? Did he not notice? Ray didn't want to find out the hard way. Hero was nearly at the structure, and there was not time to waste. Ray felt his voice fail him, but his body didn't hesitate. Without a second thought, Ray darted forward and grabbed Hero's back, flinging him back away from the upside-down cone. Sadly, his own shoe got caught in a much smaller puddle, and, in an instant, he was falling, shoulder first, into the sticky substance. The way everything moved in slow motion in Ray's mind made him remember the way Soren fell when he saved Dorian from the mousetrap all those years ago. The borrower teen's body shuddered at the mere memory of that terrifying time in his life, but he only began to panic when he landed hard in the glue, sinking nearly half of his torso into the sticky structure in a flash. Instantly, his entire body began to shake violently, mind flashing back to when he was trapped in the glue trap years ago and, technically, seen for the first time. Hero watched in shock as Ray, who had pulled him away harshly from the glistening cone, began to hyperventilate. He was obviously trying to calm himself down, but he was quickly sinking into a mental panic. Ray? Hey, it's okay. Sorry, I should have been watching where I was going, said Hero calmly as he approached. You're okay. It's just a little sticky. Here, let me. Hero's voice was interrupted by a familiar sound. There was a jingle of keys and the creak of a door opening, followed by 2 sets of footsteps. Someone, a female voice, was speaking. Hero recognized one of the voices as Sam's mother, who was saying something about not using all of the glue this time. Hey, this is perfect, said Hero as he crouched by Ray, who was still shaking. Sam can get you out. No, Hero, please, you need to hide me, stammered Ray, shaking more violently by the second. His stomach churned as his mind plunged him back to that time years ago when he was trapped. It was dark. He could hardly breathe. His limbs were stuck tight. He could still hear the sound of the snapping mousetrap. His brother's voice shouting at him to run. The entire world jostled and turned as the little old lady picked him up, sweeping him away from his brother, only to throw him into that dreaded, crinkling bag and tossing him into the trash outside in the bitter cold. Every instinct screamed danger, despite Hero's calming words and reassurance that Sam, a human who Ray didn't know, would help get him out in no time. Despite every logical thought his mind presented to him, Ray's borrower instincts of not being seen by a strange human were shoved into high gear. Did Hero say he was safe? Yes. Did Ashlyn say she knew him and that he was okay? Yes. Did Ray know all of these things? Yes. Yet his mind and body reacted with an instinct he had only known a few times in his life. The 2 borrower boys heard rapid footsteps approaching and a thunderous call over the boy's shoulder. Yes, Mom, called the boy, who was undoubtedly Sam. He stepped into his room, plastic bags in hand, and closed the door behind him. When he turned back to the desk, the human boy's eyes found Hero's small frame approaching on the desk. Hero, said Sam in a hushed yet joyous tone. I didn't think you'd be back so soon. Aired up with my volcano? Hero, bright green eyes beaming, nodded and smiled. Yep, I sure did, but I actually need your help with something first, said Hero as he stepped around to the back portion of the volcano and gestured at Ray, who was slowly losing his rational thoughts and succumbing to the panic. Ray didn't need to see Sam to know that his eyes were fixed on his frame. Whoa, is this one of your friends? Hey there, it's nice to meet you, said Sam. Ray couldn't respond. His throat was constricted and dry, every part of his body wanting to vanish from sight. Hey, are you all right? Is he all right? Ray didn't realize it, but he accidentally began muttering as the memories continued to flash in his mind. Please, let me go. I don't want to be thrown away. It's so cold. No one, other than Hero, could hear Ray, but now wasn't the time to ask him about it. He's fine. He's just stuck in the glue and can't get out. Could you help him? Asked Hero. Ray's heart rate spiked. He was being so careful and was trying to protect Hero from getting hurt. How did things turn so quickly? Ray gritted his teeth and tried to tug away from the glue, but was unsuccessful. Sam won't hurt me. Hero will let Sam hurt me. It's gonna be okay. They're not trying to trick or trap you. Ray thought this over and over in his mind, but it didn't calm the relentless pounding in his chest. No matter how many times he told himself Sam and Hero weren't colluding to capture other borrowers, his body still trembled and shook violently. It was only made worse when Ray caught a glimpse of the plastic bags Sam hurriedly placed on his bed. All he could see was the plastic bag he had been shoved into while secured to the trap. "Oh, no," said Sam apologetically. "I'm sorry. Here." Sam's fingers advanced quickly and pinched Ray's clothes, careful not to pinch his skin. Ray bit the inside of his cheek and looked away, not daring to look at Sam for fear of letting out an involuntary whimper in his panic as the human boy began to tug him free. Evidently, Hero hadn't told him about the ask permission before touching rule that Ashlyn established with them years ago. With one steady motion, Sam lifted Ray out of the glue with little to no difficulty. There was a horrible sucking sound as the glue tried to keep its hold on Ray. Ray thought he would be set down immediately, but Sam didn't put him down onto the desk. Instead, the human boy kept his side pinched as he looked for something to set him down on and clean him up with. The borrower teen fought every urge to squirm and fight the human boy's grasp, even though he wanted nothing more than to be put down onto the desk once again. He kept his eyes shut and struggled to keep out all of the terrifying thoughts creeping into his head. Here we go," said Sam, as he took out a piece of scrap paper and set it down onto the desk, proceeding to set Ray down on top of it. "Try to stay on that, okay? I'll get you some more water to get that glue off." Ray stood rigidly, shoulders hunched in on himself, as he continued to tremble, as Sam got up and left the room for something to clean Ray up, shutting the door behind him quietly. Hero, watching the entire exchange, felt puzzled and confused. Why was Ray shaking so much? Was he that scared of Sam? "Hey, Ray, it's okay. Sam's just getting some warm water to get you cleaned up. It's not gonna take a minute," said Hero reassuringly. Borrower teen stepped up to Ray and reached out a hand to touch his shoulder, but Ray shied away from it. Hero, taken aback, stared at his friend, feeling bewildered. What just happened? Was Ray angry with him? Ray stood for several seconds, letting himself shake before opening his eyes for the first time. Okay. I'm okay," he breathed. Hero stared at his friend incredulously. "Of course you're okay. It's just Sam. He wouldn't hurt you," stated Hero. "Are you shaking because you're afraid?" Ray looked up into Hero's eyes, a frustration growing in his chest. "Of course I'm afraid," said Ray quietly. "But I'm also frustrated. We made a promise to not talk to any more humans." "Right, no more humans. I won't be talking to any more humans other than the ones I'm friends with now," said Hero. At that moment, the both of them realized what the other had been saying. Any more versus any more. The subtle difference between the two words was suddenly obvious between both boys. The separation of any and more versus the singular word I didn't want the water to be too cold for you, said Sam as he approached the desk, closing the door swiftly behind him. The intuitive boy picked up on the tension in the room in a moment. Hey, are you two okay? Ray bit his lip and forced himself to nod. There was no going back now, so he turned to look at Sam and nodded. Yes, he said softly. Thank you for helping me. Sam, is it? I'm Ray. It's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too, replied Sam. Oh, here. He set the bowl onto the desk and stepped away. Thank you. Now, Hero, be careful when you're helping Sam. It's still sticky, muttered Ray as he, fully clothed, climbed into the warm water and began scraping off the glue from his body, washing it out of his clothes and off of his gadgets at his side. Hero, feeling slightly gutted, nodded and turned his attention back to Sam. Let's get this all figured out, said Hero. The two of them worked and, after cleaning himself thoroughly, Ray joined them in finishing the volcano. The tension dissipated after a time, but Hero and Ray still felt as though a wrinkle had formed in their friendship. Also, after a time, Ray realized that he did enjoy Sam's company and ideas about science and different inventions and projects. The three of them were a lot alike, and Ray hated that he felt so uneasy around Sam when they first met. Though it was understandable. After the project was finished, the two teens walked back in silence until they made it back to Ray's home. The two of them stood outside of the door for several minutes, Ray making sure he was completely dry as he contemplated what to tell Soren and Ashlyn. Hero finally spoke up. Do you not want to help anymore? He asked hesitantly. Ray thought about the question for a moment before letting his shoulders go slightly slack. I want to help, but I also don't want to be seen. I need to think about this, he said quietly. I did have a good time with Sam, but I also made a promise. I'll let you know, okay? Ray turned to walk inside when Hero, knots churning in his chest, piped up again. I didn't know all of that before about what happened to you and everything. I thought... It's okay. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to feel bad or pity me or anything like that. It's just... You don't forget an experience like that easily. And it's not something you would want for someone else. Like I said, let me think. I'll talk to you soon, said Ray, before flashing a half-hearted smile and vanishing inside. In the next room, Ray heard his brother coughing, but no one else seemed to be up and about at the moment. Good, he thought. I need to think about what I'm going to tell Ashlyn and Soren. He slipped back into his room and coughed a few times himself. Great. Now Dorian's cough is spreading. That's not good. Hero, in the meantime, walked back slowly to his home. He had a lot on his mind. A lot had happened to Ray that he didn't know about. It made him sad to think his friend experienced that when he was younger. Still, Sam was different. His friends were different. Out of all the humans Ray must have observed, surely that little old lady didn't mean to hurt him with the glue trap. It was an accident, right? Hero would have to ask Ashlyn and some of the others about it. He would also have to think of some way to make it up to Ray. He didn't want to lose a good friend just because of a minor hiccup. He made his way back to his home, all the while listening to some of the other borrowers' stifling coughs as they began setting up their stands in their makeshift marketplace. Was something going around? wondered Hira.